All right, I'm super excited for today's Health is Wealth training. We're going to be talking about how to break your sweet tooth, how to kill your sweet tooth, and break addictions to food and to sweets, because a lot of people have experienced the challenge of having a sweet tooth and how it affects them in different areas of their lives. And I want to really dive deep into this. This is not just going to be a time where I'm going to lecture, but this is going to be a training. Why? Why is this important? I want you to be mindful to take a couple of notes as I'm going through this, because for those of you who are here live, one of the things that you're going to discover is that if I just tell you information, you're going to be informed. If I teach you, you're going to be inspired. But if I train you, you're going to be transformed. And you don't just want to have information. You don't just want to have inspiration. You want to be transformed, because that's where your life is most impacted and your life is most transformed and most improved by. So this is going to be a training, which means there are some things you're going to want to take note on so that you can implement and begin to put into practice. That's going to help you actually to kill that sweet tooth or kill or break that addiction to food, because you may not realize that it hinders you in every other area of your life, even outside of your health and your fitness kind of situation. So why are we doing these Health is Wealth trainings? Just want to give a quick introduction to this training series. It's super important that you realize that you are the single common denominator to every area of your life. Think about it this way, whether it's in the area of your family, you are the one consistent variable that shows up in your family, in your job, your workplace, your spiritual life, your relationships. In every single area of your life, you are the single common denominator. I often tell people that you're the most important active ingredient that's contributing to every area of your life. And so if you want your life to get better, you have to get better, and it starts with you. One of the things I often tell people is the fact that your body is an investment. Your body is something that you invest to help derive wealth from every other area of your life. Think about it this way. If you show up fatigued, groggy, and just tired, exhausted, low energy to work every day, think about how your performance is going to be. Think about that in the area of your relationships. How you show up matters and determines the return you get on your investment. Your body, your health is an investment. And it will not surprise you when I say that, when you consider the fact that even in the Bible, the Holy Scriptures, in Romans chapter 12, it tells us, for those who are Christians and for those who may not be, this is super important to keep in mind and to understand the spiritual implications of your health and why your health is a form of investment that can give you a return of wealth in many other areas. But in Romans chapter 12, verse number 2, it says, present your body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable. So your body has a spiritual role to play, but it also has a role and a significance in every other area of your life. So for those who are spiritually inclined, that's very important to keep in mind, that your body is requested of you to be used as an investment to produce spiritual benefits and realities and to make improvements in every area of your life. Now, so let's jump right into how to break the sweet tooth, how to deal with that. Now, I want to really give context, because a lot of people can probably relate to some of the things that I'm about to say. If you're joining this training, maybe you're here live or you're watching the recording, this is very important for you, because you've probably been in a position where you're like, man, I have this sweet tooth. I really have this addiction to sweets. If you're here live, I want you to just put in the chat, what is your addiction? What is that thing that you feel like you can't break? Is it maybe to cake? Is it to snickerdoodles? Is it to Snickers or Twix? What is that thing for you that's really challenging for you to stop? Maybe it's just food in general. Maybe you really love carbs, or maybe you really love to eat pasta, or whatever the case is. But I want you to put in the chat or put it in the comments if you're watching this recording, what is the thing for you that is really difficult to break? And I'm going to show you that it's actually much more simple and more easy than you might actually think when it comes to breaking these addictions. Some people said sweets, cakes, cookies, all of those things. Some people, it's chips, it's Doritos. For other people, it can be, mozzarella sticks. I don't know what your thing is, but I want you to know that no matter how many or the variety of things that you might feel that you're addicted to or that you can't break off, the solution is very simple. So your addictions may be many, but the solution is very simple. And I want to break that down to you right now. I want to share with you the 3 C's to crucify your sweet tooth before it kills you. Your addiction to food, your addiction to the pleasure of food. Now, mind you, understand this. Food is meant to be enjoyed. Food is meant to give you energy, but food can also be intoxicating, and food can also be inflammatory, which can produce not only physical limitations in your body, but it can affect every other area of your life, including your family, your relationships, your fitness, even your finances. Think about it this way. If someone were to have a really severe health reaction that took them out of work, that really affected their body and stopped them from being able to go to work, stopped them from being able to be in school, right? You would see clearly how your health affects your wealth, because your body's inability to show up and to be present and to be alive and to be healthy and active will stop you from being able to produce the wealth that is in every area of your life. I'm not just talking about finances, but I'm talking about in the area of relationships and in so many other areas, even you being able to fulfill your potential. So let's talk about the 3 C's. This is where you want to begin to take notes. Let's talk about the 3 C's for how you can crucify any addiction, how you can nullify, how you can control any addiction, whether it's a sweet tooth or an addiction to food in general. The first thing we have to do is we have to determine the convenience that that sweet tooth or that addiction provides to us. We have to determine the convenience. What do I mean by the convenience? You have to understand your own psychology, your own way of thinking, why your body is actually relying on that particular thing and when your body relies on that particular thing. This is very important. You see, one of the reasons why people don't experience transformation is because we really never slow down to have the time to think. We never think about our patterns, how we operate, how we behave, and why we behave the way that we behave. But this is very important. I know this might seem so abstract or esoteric, or it might seem so like weird, but it's very, very simple. If you never think about yourself, you can never transform yourself. So you have to determine, what is the convenience that cake provides to me, and when does it provide that convenience to me? So what you'll find is that most people, or some people, maybe for yourself, and you want to take notes on this, because what you're taking notes is not only on what I'm saying, but also on what your patterns and your behavior says about yourself. This is critical. So think about it. What convenience does the sweet tooth or your food addiction provide to you? Maybe it's when you're stressed, that the convenience of eating chips, or maybe it's the convenience of eating this or that. For some people who stress eat, this can be very, very important. These principles that I'm teaching you are essential. The convenience that is provided to you is what benefit do you derive, and when do you derive that benefit from going to that sweet tooth? Maybe it's when you're stressed. Maybe it's when you're anxious. Maybe it's when you're doing work and you feel like you've put in a lot of work, you're exhausted, and you just want to be comforted. Maybe it's when you're experiencing some kind of level of tiredness after the day. But what convenience does the sweet tooth or the addiction provide to you, and when does it provide that? This is so important. You have to really think about yourself. For some people, it's after a long day, you've been exhausted, you've been working. Maybe for other people, it's while you're in the middle of work. You're like, man, I'm in school. Or maybe I'm working on my computer at work or doing whatever, and I just need a break. I've been exhausted. I've been in meetings, and you want to go and get a little bar of candy or whatever the case may be to satisfy. You need to know, when is that convenience provided to you, and why are you going to it? What are the situations? Because if you're going to break it, listen, you can't beat what you don't understand. You can't defeat what you have not defined clearly. If you want to understand how to break this sweet tooth, how to break an addiction to food, you have to understand it, or else you will not be able to stand against it. Man, I'm giving you guys some crazy bars right now. You have to be able to understand it, or you will not be able to stand against it. So what convenience does it provide to you? Come on, if you're here on the live training, put it in the chat, or if you're watching the recording, put it in the chat. When do you typically go to those sweets, go to the cookies? Is it usually at the end of the day after you've been exhausted? Is it usually maybe, oh, I've been working all day, let me sit on the couch, watch some Netflix and eat some chips or whatever? Maybe it's on your way home because you work long stretches of a period, and then you're like, you stop at the gas station and you get some food or some snacks. When does that addiction show up? Where does the convenience, when do you lean on that thing? That's how you need to understand the convenience that it's providing to you. Now, the second thing that you need to determine is determine the cost of what that food or that addiction is costing you. What does it cost? What is it taking you? What is it taking from you, I should say? This is very essential. Determine the cost that it takes, meaning you have to get clear on the aspects of your life that are actually suffering or not going as well as you would desire them to because of the addiction. This is very, very important. I know addiction can seem like a strong word, but most of the time, because we're addicted to things like food or things that are not really, substances that are looked down upon, we often don't take it as serious to call it an addiction, where we actually find ourselves going back every single time, repeatedly leaning on this thing that provides a convenience, but it also has a cost. There is a cost that is correlated to certain things in your life, things that are showing up in your life, whether it's exhaustion or fatigue, whether it's you feeling groggy, and maybe it's because you have not made the correlation between the things that are happening in your life and the addiction that you're giving yourself to. You haven't made that correlation, so you don't know what it's costing you. And some people actually do. They're like, well, man, I really just can't help, but eat this kind of food. And, now I found that I've been gaining a little bit more weight. I'm not really happy with how I look in the mirror or how I fit my clothes. And so that is the cost. Let me give you an example from my personal life. One of the things I began to realize as I found myself being too committed to food, I realized that it was hindering me in my spiritual life. I realized that as I would overeat or would eat things that were not as healthy or nutrient based for me, I found that it was hindering me in my ability to pray. I would find myself exhausted and tired and maybe late at night wanting to pray, but not really being able to. Food can be very inebriating. It can be very inundating. It can really weigh your body down and stop you from being able to do the things that are important to you. But the question is, how important is that thing that you desire to be able to do? Some people haven't made the realization that, man, you're working, you want to get a better job, you want to be able to apply for more jobs, but you're always exhausted after work. But could I tell you this? Just as much as food can feel like it's slowing you down, giving you the itis, food can also be the thing that energizes you and helps you so that even after a long day of work, you still have energy to continue to do the things you want to be able to do, whether it's to apply to more jobs so you can get a better job, or whether it's to be able to spend time with your kids or to be able to spend time with people in your family. Maybe you're just so exhausted after work or after a long day, you don't have energy to do anything. But I can tell you that food has a relationship with your ability to be energized and to cultivate wealth in the area of your relationships with your family, whether it's with your kids, whether it's even being able to spend time with God, or being able to spend time with people that matter the most, or being able to go the extra mile to break yourself out of your current profession and get to your next profession, right? Your energy, your health, again, you are the single common denominator that shows up in every area of your life. And if you want your life to get better, you have to work on yourself and work on your body. If this is helping you so far, just put an emoji in the chat. Let me know that this is helping, or leave a comment and saying this is helping you so far. So determine the cost. What is it costing you? You see, most of the time we don't get transformed because we don't have time to really think, okay, what is this costing me? Some people actually know what it's costing them. They're like, well, I know I would be more energized if I ate better. But you haven't connected the idea between you having more energy and what that's going to allow you to do, and the fact that that addiction, that unhealthy eating pattern or addiction to sweets is actually zapping and taking away your energy. Here's the reason why eating sweets and junk food, as we might call it, we never typically define junk food, but you have to actually define, is the food that I'm eating, is it junk for my body, or is it actually helping to rejuvenate my body? That's the question you have to ask, because I know a lot of times we use the word junk food as a phrase, or the term junk food as a phrase that's just kind of a catch-all thing. But have you defined the food that you eat as junk food? And meaning not just that it's looked down upon by other people when they see you eating it, but is the food that you're eating actually helping your body to be rejuvenated, or is it just junk? It just gives you a short burst of energy and it leaves you exhausted, wanting more energy and longing for more. You ever wanted to try a sweet, or maybe like some chips or a pastry? You ate one, and then the next time, for like 3 minutes later, you're like, man, I want some more. And then the next time you ate 3. And then the next time after that, you wanted more, so you ate 5. And then all of a sudden, the bag of chips is completely gone. Anybody can relate to me in that regards. What I want you to understand is the reason why junk food is because it doesn't rejuvenate your body. It actually takes more away from you. But here's the thing. Have you defined the cost of what it actually costs you to do that? To live a life where you could actually be making more progress in other areas. And I'm not talking about in your health. I'm talking about the fact that if you make progress in how you take care of your body and how you preserve your body, if you make progress in that area, what it will do for you is it'll actually help you to make progress in the other areas that are important to you that have nothing to do with your health and your well-being. This is so important. So for people who are like, man, I want to be able to sleep better. I want to have the ability to fit my clothes better and to just feel better about myself, have more confidence. Can I tell you that your relationship with food and you breaking those addictions are the things that's very important. Now, here's why. Because what you do consistently compounds over time. If you consistently eat the food that you're addicted to, and mind you, it's an addiction, so we're most likely consistent with it. I found for myself that I began to compound results in areas of my life that were important to me, like being able to have more energy in the time of prayer, being able to spend more time and have more energy with my wife and my son after a day of work, after a long day. Why? Because I wasn't exhausted mentally and in my brain. I had provided the right nutrients for my body so that my brain was energized, my body felt rejuvenated, my body wasn't working against my desires. For some of us, we don't realize that every desire that you have, I would challenge you, think about every desire you have in your profession, your family, your spiritual life, your career, your relationships. I want to challenge you to make this bold statement that every area of your life can either be hindered by the way that you treat your body with the food that you put into it and by some of those addictions that we have. You see, this is the important thing for us to realize, that your body can be working against you if you do not cultivate your body to work for you. This is very important. So most of the time when we find we don't have that motivation, what we don't realize is that the food we put in our body stimulates the chemicals and the hormones that cause us to feel a certain way. Some people feel trapped in their body because of what they've been putting in themselves, and we don't realize that we're chained to those addictions, and those addictions are stopping us from change. I'll say that again. We're chained to certain addictions, to certain appetites, and those appetites are the things that are keeping us from change. There are chains that keep us from change. And so your addiction, you want to become motivated and inspired to break it, because I can tell you that it is one of the barriers to helping you to make progress in some of the most meaningful areas of your life. Listen, think about your goals in any area. Maybe you're like, man, I want to break out of my 9 to 5 and I want to be able to have my own business and doing other things. Listen, I'm telling you that if you can begin to improve your body is an investment, and it's a down payment to help you start seeing results in the areas of your life that are most meaningful to you and most important. But number two thing you need to do after you determine the convenience that your addiction is providing you. How is it helping you to relieve stress? How is it helping you when you're bored? Determine what convenience it's providing to you. And then number two, determine what it's costing you. What areas of your life are suffering or are undesirable that are actually related to you not being more self-controlled and disciplined in the area of food, right? Then the third and final thing that you need to do to really break this addiction is you have to consider if the convenience is worth the cost of what is being lost. I'll say that again. You have to determine if the convenience of you giving yourself to that addiction, if that convenience that it provides, maybe you eat food. I know for myself that when I eat after having worked for a long period of time and I'm exhausted, I give myself to eating food out of convenience. The convenience that I'm getting is it's relieving my stress. It's helping me to feel good. It's helping me to feel comfort. But you have to determine, is the convenience, you have to consider, that's the third C, consider, is the convenience worth the cost of what is being lost? Because when you give yourself to addictions, there is something that's being lost. There is something that you should be giving yourself to that you aren't, that you're receiving comfort from the food that you're enjoying and indulging in. Now, mind you, I want to balance this, that food is meant to be enjoyed. However, we want to enjoy food in a way that has moderation, that doesn't disrupt our ability and throw our body out of equilibrium. You know that your body is being thrown out of equilibrium because when you eat, it weighs you down, it slows you down, it stops you, it disables you instead of enabling you. So when your food enables you, it keeps you filled and satisfied, but not to a point where you just want to continue to eat more. So many times for some of us who are going to realize after reflecting through this training, you're going to realize that, okay, cool. What does this food do to me? One of the questions you need to monitor in order to break a food addiction is, what is this food doing to me? How do I feel after? Is it disabling me or is it enabling me? You ever eaten a healthy 3-course meal before? You ate maybe a salad, you ate some kind of protein, you ate something really good, and you just felt full and satisfied. You didn't really want to eat anymore, but you just felt satisfied. Can anybody relate? You ate some kind of great meal, but you really weren't hungry, you were just satisfied. And then on the contrast, you ever eaten something, you were so full, maybe you went to a buffet, but for some reason, you just kept putting food one at a time in your mouth. You were filled to the full, to the overflow, but you still kept putting food in your mouth. You still kept eating for whatever reason because it was just so good and so tantalizing. That's how you know if food is disabling you or if it's enabling you. It's enabling you to do and to be all that you're designed to be. It's helping your body to not focus more on indulging in food, but helping you to endeavor and to move forward in life and all the activities that are more important to you. Spending time with your family, going for a run, going for a walk, being able to work out. You ever wanted to work out or to exercise, but then you ate something and then you just felt like, whew, man, I'm exhausted, right? That's food that is disabling you versus food that is enabling you. If this is helping you, just put helpful in the chat. If this is helping you, whether you're watching this live, you're here with me live, or whether you are watching the recording, if this is helping you. So you have to begin to think. And most of the reasons why we don't transform our lives and improve our lives is because we don't have time to think. And so therefore we cannot be transformed. All right. So here are the 3 C's again, really quickly. Number 1, determine the convenience that the food provides to you. What and when are you leaning on that particular addiction for? Then number 2, what is the cost? What is it actually costing you? And then number 3, you have to consider, is the convenience worth the cost? All right. So here are the 3 steps, or the simple step that you need to take. It's really one simple step. But you need to take this simple step in order to break free from an addiction. Let me show you. The first thing is, if you are going to, before you remove any kind of food in your life, or before you try to say, I'm going to stop eating this or stop doing this, before you remove, you have to replace. Very simple. Before you remove, you have to replace. This is essential. So think about it this way. A lot of times we don't realize that we have to work with our body and not against our body. We have to discipline our body, but we have to work with our body. So if you have something that you're addicted to, and again, that may feel like a strong word for someone. Some people will feel like, oh, I'm not addicted. But if you don't admit that you're addicted, there's no way that you can overcome it, because what's going to happen is you're going to say, well, I'm not really addicted to it. I can let go of it anytime. But if you find yourself consistently going to it because it provides some convenience to you, then there's most likely a level to which your appetite is driving you more than other things. And so one of the things we have to realize is, before you try to remove that thing and go cold turkey, you have to replace it. You have to have in clear view what you're going to replace that addiction with, because that addiction provides a level of convenience to you. You're leaning on it for something, and you don't want to just remove the thing that you're leaning on without finding the next thing that you're going to substitute it for. So it's a simple principle. Before you replace, you have to, before you remove, you have to replace. You have to have in clear view, okay, I've been struggling I find myself overeating on maybe a lot of pastas or rice or whatever the case may be. Cool. I want to break that addiction. Well, the first thing I want to think about is, what is the thing that I'm going to replace it with? And this is how we maintain our ability to enjoy food. Find a replacement that is not only healthier, but that's one that you can enjoy. So for example, someone who's like, man, I'm really addicted to sweets, right? Maybe it's a sweet tooth. Find something that has a greater nutritional value, like fruit, that is healthier. It still may be sweet, but it can help you to progressively break free from the unhealthy addiction that you have onto something that is more substantial in terms of the value that it gets. The reason why fruit would be a better substitute for empty calorie foods like junk food, like candy, cakes, and pastries is because there is nutritional value to fruits. And you can even progressively go from fruits that are high on its glycemic index. Glycemic index just means the amount of sugar and how it spikes your blood sugar. But you can choose something that is a fruit that is very, very sweet, maybe like watermelon or like oranges, and progressively go down and choose fruits that you enjoy that can satisfy that sweet tooth, but it also has a better nutritional value for you. It provides vitamins, minerals, all these other kind of things. So you want to think about, before I decide to try to remove something, and this is why many people have failed in their attempt to break free from different addictions or overcommitments. Let's call it an overcommitment to food. Many people can find themselves struggling or failing. Maybe they do it for 2 weeks and then they go back, right? Or maybe they do a, fad 21-day cleanse or whatever. And then after the 21 days, they go for another 21 months of giving into that addiction. Why? Because they tried to remove something without having a clear picture of what they were going to replace it with that's going to help give a level of convenience and a level of transformation to them. Now, one of the things that I've done, that I've practiced and implemented, is you can go from removing something that's unhealthy in your life or an addiction, because you might have an addiction to something that's not really too unhealthy, but you rely on it. You over rely on that thing. And so one of the things that you can simply do is, if you're not sure what to replace it with, start with water. Say, hey, I'm going to, every time I feel the sensation to want to give to this craving, I'm going to go to water. Now, that might be extreme, because a lot of people, water is not satisfying for them in a lot of ways. But there are a lot of other things that you can replace that addiction with. And it doesn't only necessarily need to be food. One of the things that you can do as you progress is you can go from replacing your addiction to food with food, and replace that addiction to food with something that's going to better your future. This is powerful, and this is very important. This is where discipline and training comes in. Like I told you, I don't just want to tell you, if you're taking notes, I want you to really take notes on, okay, cool. When and why do I rely on this particular addiction? When does it show up in my life? What are the times? Then number two, what is it costing me? When I do this thing, when I give into this addiction, when I eat this particular thing, or when I eat in this particular way, what does it cost me? Does it usually make me feel exhausted? Okay, cool. Not only do I feel exhausted, but define, what does that exhaustion stop me from doing, and how does that make my life less desirable than it should be? How does it make my life suffer in a way that I actually don't want it to? You have to define it, because you cannot defeat what you do not define. So yes, I feel exhausted. Yes, okay, cool. Maybe I found that over time my body's become a little bit more plump in certain areas. Well, define why that is something that you do not like, and why that's a problem for you, and how it's hindering your life in other areas. So you need to do that. So when you start to decide, okay, cool, I'm going to remove this thing from my life and replace it with something else, what we now need to do next is, we can also say, what I'm replacing this addiction with doesn't need to be food. It can be something for my future. And this is how you can begin to become a more disciplined person. One of the things that I did, I wanted to begin to read my Bible more and to engage spiritually more. So what I did is I said, no Bible, no breakfast. I put a discipline in my life that came before something that was desirable and easy for me to do. So you don't have to you can start off replacing your food or your sweet tooth. You can start by replacing it with food, but you can also begin to replace it with something from your future. This can begin to challenge you in a way whereby you can see directly how your health and your body can help you make progress and improve your life in other areas. Because every time you're enticed to go to that addiction, you create a discipline around yourself and within your mindset to say, okay, when this food calls to me, I'm going to do something to invest in my future in a particular area. So maybe you're like, okay, cool. I've been trying to apply for jobs. I've been trying to make headway in my finances and transform these areas of my lives. And one of the things that can slow you down is your overcommitment to food and to eating, even when you're not necessarily hungry. And so every time you feel enticed to go to that addiction, here's what you say, okay, cool. I'm going to actually, every time I feel the pull to go in the direction to give myself to this food or to this addiction, I'm going to go and apply for a job. Simple. Or maybe every single time I feel the pull to give myself to this food, I'm going to make a phone call to steward a relationship, to invest in a relationship that I've been trying to improve on. Maybe you call your mother, call your father, spend time with your child, whatever the case may be. How can you begin to align, to shift your overcommitment to food to become a commitment to your future? So you don't only have to replace your addiction to food with food, you can replace it with something that invests in your future. Is this helping someone? This is very practical, and you need to define it very clearly. In fact, before you finish this training, before you finish this video, define, what is the investment in my future that I want to replace my addiction to food or my overcommitment to food? What is that thing in my future that I want to replace this with? Very powerful. Now, here's the important thing. This is why I talk about replacing a food addiction with food, and then also maybe in the future replacing it with something that's an investment toward your future, right? But here's the thing, it's okay to break away slowly, right? Progress does not require perfection. You don't have to be perfect. Listen, you might say, okay, after this training, I want to apply what Dr. Toby has talked about. I want to apply these principles. How am I going to do this? And you're like, okay, cool. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. So even just you taking the steps to write down clearly the convenience, the cost, and then to consider, is it worth it, and to define, okay, what am I going to replace this addiction with? What am I going to replace this with? You taking the time to define that is a step in the right direction, because then you have a clear roadmap. It's hard to find a destination. It's hard to get to a place that you don't have a GPS for. So you have to clearly take the time to think, and most people, they don't want to take the time to think and apply things to their lives. That's why we can't be transformed. But you got to sit down, take the time to think, okay, cool. What's the pattern that's been governing my life, that's been dictating my life? How do I define it so I can defeat it? And then from there, you come to a point where you can begin to work at implementing it a little bit better every single day. 1% better every day, 1% better every day, 1% better every day. Progress, you don't need to have perfection to make progress. And this is super important. So hopefully you guys have found this training helpful. I would love to go into a time of questions very briefly for a few people who might have any questions before I round up this training, for those who are here, who are live. So any quick questions, I can take one or two if anyone has a question before we round up. And before I take questions, I just want to say, if you are new to our YouTube channel, subscribe to this channel. It's going to be very beneficial to help you stay healthy, pain-free, fit, and mobile. And you can see the free meal plan that we give to people in the community, that we use for folks that can help you to actually have clear definition to break free from addictions to food. It can give you definition on healthy parameters for your eating. So click the link in the description if you want to get that free meal plan that can help you give guidance to a healthy, balanced lifestyle. So want to take some questions really briefly if anyone has a question. All right, it looks like we don't have any questions at this time. So I want to thank you guys again for being a part of this training, and stay tuned for more of our health is wealth trainings. This is going to be an amazing opportunity to help you to build a healthy lifestyle, but also to see wealth in all the areas of your life, because your fitness affects your finances, your family, your faith, your relationships, and so many other areas, especially your future. So I'll see you all in our next training.